Yesterday, we talked about things you should never do in the settings, namely turning off crossplay, but what about things you should never do tactically when you've actually loaded into a battle and are about to start playing? Well, one thing I think you generally shouldn't do is abandon the flank on which you spawn. But of course, in this battle, in the legendary tier Spanish cruiser Castilla, we're going to notice that both of our teammates that spawn with us are immediately going to attempt to leave this alpha flank. We've got this destroyer here who's already making his turn toward Bravo, and then a battleship slightly behind us who's doing the same. We, however, will remain on this flank and will be rewarded for it. We can't just let the enemy team push straight into this alpha cap and take it with no opposition whatsoever. Now it looks like our friendly destroyer is going to approach the cap. Doesn't look so much like the battleship is, and in fact, I think if you pay attention to that mini-map, he's going to take a turn and drive himself right into that island right next to him, which is probably going to spell his demise. And perhaps on the destroyer's part, he's worried about the Prince Ruprecht. After all, it is a German battle cruiser, so it's got a lot of secondary power. If our destroyer gets spotted in the vicinity of those secondaries, he could be melted fairly easily. And that's nothing to say of the sonar that the Prince Ruprecht comes equipped with. Perhaps he feels like it would be a waste of time launching his torpedoes at a battleship equipped with hydroacoustic search. Who knows? I'm not in his head. All I can tell you is that we have already one blue destroyer in the Bravo cap, positioned fairly well. You can see he's got his bow pointed outside of the cap, so he can escape if the pressure gets too heavy. But our other destroyer is looking like he's going to be joining him for some reason, and that's something I don't quite understand. Why not come to the Alpha cap? There's something inside of it, probably an enemy destroyer. Given that we're spotted right now, it has to be. Certainly not the Prince Ruprecht or the Wisconsin out there. But it would be nice to have a friendly destroyer to counter that guy's presence inside of the cap. What are you going to do, though? You cannot control what your teammates do. That's one thing you've got to remember in this game. You're not driving their ships, you're driving your ship. And so all you can do is control your own actions. Now, the two destroyers on our team are in Bravo. The battleship is in retreat. We're here against a pushing Prince Ruprecht and likely a destroyer. Got torpedoes on the way to Ruprecht and our own hydroacoustic search up. We spot the torpedoes from the destroyer long before they ever become a problem. And of course, we're using the special, well, I wouldn't say special, the Spanish cruiser commander that was a calendar reward. So we've got 3 salvos ready to go in this ready rack, but we only have 2 heals since we don't have fully packed. That limits the survivability, and we don't want to be in a position this close to Prince Ruprecht where his secondaries are able to hit us, because as you can see, they are taking off HP. We're already down about 10k, and I don't even think we took a salvo from this guy's main battery guns yet. It's coming, though. But Castilla is equipped with 30mm belt plating. I believe the upper belt is, and so that's enough to bounce Prince Ruprecht's 16-inch guns, but the secondaries, they'll chew through that armor regardless. They have the German pen, and I think even the smaller ones will get damage. So we cannot be subject to this kind of aura damage. Unfortunately for us, we have no battleship presence now. The battleship that spawned with us has fully abandoned the flank, and so Prince Ruprecht really has nothing else to shoot at least for the moment. I think he is going to turn his attention, though, toward our battleship teammate, because he's gone around the island, and I think he's going to be in shooting range of Ruprecht quite soon. Meanwhile, both of the destroyers that went to the Bravo cap have been sent back to port, and so we have only 1 destroyer left on the complete other side of the map in Charlie, versus 2 destroyers on the red team, one of which is at least last known position is on this flank. We don't know if he's still within range of us or not, since we're spotted by Ruprecht this entire time, but finally, it looks like we're out of danger range and the secondaries can no longer hit. So that's good. You can see we've lost a lot of HP, to be fair. a good deal of that was from the Ruprecht's main battery guns, just getting penetrations, probably in the superstructure and the stern, things like that, but also the secondaries just melting us, not to mention the fire damage that they did. Speaking of which, we've got a fire burning on Ruprecht, and he has turned his attention to the ships in the center, which is good for us. All we need is one battleship to present a target for him so that he ignores us. And we're dark now, waiting for the reload to come back off of cooldown and switching to the AP since Ruprecht is at least somewhat broadside. These are 254mm guns on the Castilla, larger than, other cruisers at this tier, so theoretically this AP should be able to do a good deal to that broadside, and it does. That's actually pretty good damage, I would say. Almost enough to take Ruprecht out, not quite, and the fire is not going to finish the job. It gets extinguished either by DCP or by time, who knows. In any case, the enemy is beginning to abandon this flank now, at least the Ruprecht, and we know where the destroyer was that took the flank. He's spotted by that island near the Ruprecht, and spotted, for that matter, by our final remaining enemy destroyer, friendly destroyer rather, who will hopefully come out on top in this engagement, considering he's got that battleship next to him that abandoned our flank. Hopefully that battleship can redeem himself by assisting with the DD. But for us, our primary focus has to be on the Prince Ruprecht. He's the only one we can shoot. We've mostly eliminated all of his HP. In fact, all the damage we've done up until this point in the battle, 70,000 of it, is all on the Prince Ruprecht. And, thankfully, the friendly destroyer and or the battleship do finish off that last remaining enemy DD, but not before going down themselves. The destroyer, courtesy of a torpedo from the enemy. So that's great. Meanwhile, we get our first kill, and that puts us into a scenario where we're a 3v4 in favor of the enemy team, which, by the way, has captured 2 out of 3 of the circles, and that is enough to secure the win conditions. And now we have the misfortune of having to deal with USS Wisconsin, an ultra-accurate battleship with a main battery reload booster. You can't play with the Wisconsin. In that case, if you're broadside to him and spotted, good chance he can pump 2-3 salvos into that broadside. It's not like other battleships where you could, bait out the salvo, angle, bounce it, and then give broadside again while you're waiting on the reload. You can't count on that with USS Wisconsin. Luckily, we're able to get angled, and I think that first salvo he sent our way did bounce off our 30mm belt. Hopefully the second one will as well, but one thing about the Castilla is in order to get all 3 of the turrets on target, you do have to give a fair amount of broadside when you're in a kiting position like this, and I'm confident, given the experience we had with the Prince Ruprecht earlier, that if Wisconsin hits our broadside at the wrong angle, he is going to be able to pen it. Even if he doesn't, you see there he gets some pens into the superstructure, and we're fresh out of heals. So the HP we have right now is all we're going to have for the remainder of the game, which means we have to be careful. But time is beginning to run short, and if we take out this Wisconsin, we are a little bit out of position. We're having to kite away, of course. We can't really push directly into him. Well, we could, I suppose, but that would be a huge risk. I think if we increase the distance and maintain the angle, we should be able to protect ourselves reasonably well, and then just rely on the DPM, courtesy of the HE and the dots from the fires it starts. You can see we're getting good results here on the Wisconsin. Numbers in the thousands as the HE salvos connect, not to mention fires. Although I'd say the fire count is somewhat low for this battle so far, only 4. But 1 is still burning on Wisconsin, taking down his HP to just about less than 5k at this point. Ready Rack is up, and these 3 salvos have got to be enough to finally finish off Wisconsin. There he goes for our second kill of the game, and in that entire sequence, I think we started out with 26,000 HP. We are down to 16,000, so we only lost 10k. Hopefully that will be enough currency left for us to deal with whatever remains on the enemy team. And we've got a friendly Michelangelo left alive. I'd say that's a good thing. Michelangelo's a very tanky cruiser with tremendous secondary and torpedo power, by the way. He's behind that island there in the Bravo cap, attempting to flip it, but as you can see, oh, maybe it's not contested by that enemy battleship. I thought he was inside of it on the other side of that rock, but it turns out he's not. We can see the Michelangelo has launched torpedoes and lost all of his remaining HP. So hopefully those torpedoes are enough to take out that enemy battleship. I don't know that I could square off against 3 in this same battle. We've already had to have the Ruprecht and the Wisconsin both chew through us. Michelangelo is requesting help. And, well, I mean, there's not much we can do to help him. We were out of position, had to be due to the kiting. He did take out the enemy battleship, though, so that's good. That leaves only the Brisbane left. And for his part, looks like he's on fire somehow, maybe flooding from a torp. I don't know. In any case, he's not long for this world, and I don't think he's going to be able to finish flipping the Bravo cap before he sinks. Bravo cap isn't contested, though, and Brisbane was last spotted headed toward this location, which is why we've got the AP loaded. Brisbane is, of course, a Minotaur hull, and he's got really no armor to speak of. If I'm not completely mistaken, I think the armor piercing on the Castilla is able to overmatch at least the bow and stern plating of the Brisbane, if not the entire armor scheme. Not 100% sure there, but the AP should be effective. And thankfully, the Michelangelo, after taking out the battleship, which was a clutch move on his part, has also flipped the Bravo cap. And so now we have the cap advantage, but of course, he didn't have much HP left, and Brisbane was able to sink him quite easily. Now we're in a scenario where the question becomes, what do we do? And you might know what we do, because this match did happen on my stream. I just think it was a good one, worth analyzing. Well, the question is, we're at 500 points to 596. We do have 2 caps, so we can overtake the enemy team on points in the next 3 minutes, provided we maintain control of both caps, which seems like an iffy proposition. After all, the Brisbane did just sink the Michelangelo, and he was last spotted pointed toward that Bravo cap, so I think it's safe to assume he's going to sail into the Bravo cap and flip it. That's what he would need to do if he wants to win. The alternative would be sinking me, and we don't know how much intelligence data he has on us. He may not know that we're at fairly low health, and the Brisbane, for its part, it does have destroyer caliber guns with AP and HE, unlike the Minnow. And so I'm a little bit worried that the Brisbane's DPM would be enough to chew through what little HP we do have left. So what do we do? Well, we're going to be able to take the cap with no opposition. Brisbane can't see us. We'll just have to slow down to finish capping. And we're roughly 50 points behind the enemy. So still, even with 2 minutes remaining or so long as we have this cap flipped, which we will in the next 15 seconds, that is probably enough to overtake them on points. But it's hard to know when you're in the heat of battle like this, especially if you're on a live stream. And so I decided what we're going to do is finish flipping the cap, and then we're going to take our chances with the Brisbane, because again, we have the AP power to do a lot of damage to his hull. He's got an exposed citadel. The main thing I think we have to worry about is a torpedo threat, but we've got hydroacoustic search ready to go, and I think perhaps our armor is enough to shatter the HE in a lot of places. I think Brisbane has what, 127 millimeter guns, destroyer caliber? I don't think, no, it has 152s, doesn't it? But even if it does have 152s, they aren't going to be penning 30 millimeters of armor unless they have the equilibrium of power skill, which they don't. So our hull is probably enough to actually shatter his HE. He would have to get hits into the superstructure. But right here, we were correct. We have overtaken the enemy team on points just now in the final minutes of the game, which is why it's important to have more than one capture circle. Good thing we have hydroacoustic search. The torpedoes are spotted long before they hit us, and we are able to avoid them. But of course, Brisbane does have torpedoes on the other side of his ship, so we have to be wary of those. The AP does overmatch the bow. That's good to know. And there's the final set of torpedoes coming our way. Here we're in a bit of a sticky situation. Looks like that torpedo on the far left of this spread could hit us, but we still are able to avoid it. Brisbane, for his part, has shaved 6,000 HP off of our total, but I think we've done more to him in the interim. We're going to try to deliberately aim for the Citadel with this ready rack. We strike it twice, but the battle ends. I think we would have actually sunk the Brisbane there if we got a couple more shots in. But then again, if we hadn't sunk him and the battle didn't end there, maybe he could have shaved off the rest of our HP with his DPM. I'm not sure. In any case, we didn't abandon our flank. We made sure to play that side of the map for the entirety of the game, and as such, we were still alive when it counted to turn the tide and secure the victory for the blue team. So, the bottom line from this video, if you hadn't already seen it on the stream I did, is don't abandon your flank. Always play your flank, even if the odds are against you. We were alone on that flank. We had no support, and yet we're still able to come out on top just because of playing fairly well, I would say, in that battle. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.